everyone pull up the fill in the blank notes and that you'll find in Google Classroom under the regional interaction stuff. Once you get that done, we're going to go ahead and start. All right, today we're going to be talking about the Eastern Hemisphere. So looking at the different trade routes that developed in Africa, Asia, and Europe in the medieval period. As we talked about with the early Middle Ages, the fall of Rome really impacted Europe until the Middle Ages and feudal society came about. And then we start to see things, the ball starts to get rolling again. And so they rejoin the rest of the world like Asia and Africa and become part of this regional trade. So as you're filling in these blanks, what do you think this trade encouraged? More than just passing goods, but with communication, what else gets passed?
Slaves, I guess.
Yeah, slaves was a part of it. We'll talk about that with the Trans-Saharan network, but also good ideas and technologies. So things like religion and the land team sale, which we'll talk about. So to get this pulled up, we see the major trade patterns. Sorry for the virtual people. I forgot that I have to change the slides on both the, what is this called? The Chromium? Promethean board and my laptop. So I'm just going to take a minute. So yeah, just remembering that the trade routes developed among Europe, Africa, and Asia. They can pause it if you need to, I think. So just explaining where the trade routes emerge, because you will have a map activity that will actually, you can use this slide to help you navigate how to correctly label that map. But the Silk Route, which we've also heard been called what? Not just route, but road. Yeah, absolutely. And this crosses from Asia to the Mediterranean basis. This one was one of the most major silk routes. And the Great Wall of China was actually built in part to protect it. The maritime routes, does anyone know what maritime stands for, especially if you've ever been to the coast a lot? You probably see a lot of things labeled maritime.
A marine.
Yeah, like a marine or a marina. So maritime has a lot to do with water, and when we get into this next slide, I'll show you a way to remember it, especially when you work on that map activity. But this crosses the Indian Ocean, so you can remember maritime and Indian Ocean. By that, it's when you look at this trade route, it is literally in the middle of the Indian Ocean. The Trans-Saharan route, also known as the Gold and Salt route, this crosses through North Africa, and if you could imagine, they mainly traded gold and salt through this route, but many other things were passed through, like textiles. Northern European routes, this links to the Black Sea to the Baltic. And then the Western European route, again, use seas and rivers. So we're seeing a lot of water use rather than land travel, because at this time we didn't have cars, we didn't have planes. Our most efficient transportation were boats, thinking back to the Vikings and their longboats. And then the South China Sea route, this crosses the seas of Southeast Asia. This is just a map that can help you see where Asia, Europe, and Africa. Again, those are our main countries we're going to be talking about, continents, Asia, Europe, Africa. And then right here in the middle, if you're looking down by Asia and on the east side of Africa, you can see that the coasts kind of make like an M. And this is going to be the maritime route, because that ocean to the east of Africa is the Indian Ocean, but you can remember maritime by the coast making an M. So major trade patterns, like I was mentioning with this new trade, people got to talk more, they got to share ideas. And unlike the Spanish who rolled up on the Aztecs and the Incas and they were like, what in the world? They are human sacrificing. They actually got along a little bit better. Although Hinduism and Buddhism are polytheistic, they still could understand it a little bit better than what they were seeing with polytheism in Central America and South America. So we see the exchange of goods, technology, and ideas. But can anyone tell me what diffusion means?
We try to diffuse a spat between people.
Or how I like to say it is the airwick diffusers, the ones that go off and you're always like, whoa. What happens to the air that comes out of that? Where does it go? Someone said it. It's dispersed. It spreads throughout the room. And so that's the same thing with diffusion. So when the air diffuser diffuses, it's spreading all out. And that's exactly what happened with cultures, ideas, new technologies. So getting into goods. We see gold and salt from West Africa. Again, the trans-Saharan route was big with gold and salt. And what do we know salt to do other than be a seasoning? What did people use it for, especially before we had refrigerators?
You ever had country ham?
Flavors, I mean.
What
It actually preserves the meat. So when you're traveling,
it's called country ham because back in the day, as Kim was just saying, you don't have refrigeration. So fish, as well as pork, beef, will be just packed in crates and barrels of salt.
and after you eat a lot of salt, how do you feel? Do you want more salt or do you want a bottle of water?
Water.
Yeah, everyone wants water. And that's the same thing it does to the meat. It dehydrates the meat, so it preserves it and keeps it good, and it's not all these gross juices that are going bad within the week.
Because what happens is decomposition happens because of the moisture, the juices within the meat. You good take a juicy steak, right? It's good when it's cooked. But what happens if it stays out in the sun, it starts to spoil and actually starts the rotting process.
Absolutely. So salt became a hot commodity once that was getting passed. Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of.
And then we have spices from lands around the Indian Ocean. So I don't know if any of you have had Indian food or like it, but I really like it, especially curry and tikka masala. But if you ever go to order Indian food, they give you like spice levels, and the very last level, like the hottest you can get, is typically called Indian spicy. So that's one way you can remember that, is that with Indian food, it's always really known for its spices.
How many of you guys have ever had Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
Or shrimpiton toast crunch.
Okay. So, yeah, without this trade route going to India, your budget wouldn't have Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It would just be Toast Crunch. Cinnamon is one of the major spices that we get from Southeast Asia.
And then we have textiles from India.
Okay.
Then we have textiles from India, China, the Middle East, and later Europe. And textiles are anything that can be turned into multiple, multi-use purposes. So things like cotton, wool. Obviously, we can make fabrics out of these. Then the fabrics become clothing. Clay starts as mud. Then you put water in it. Now it's clay, and then you can make adobe with that. So textiles were being passed, things that could be used to make other things. Porcelain from China and Persia. So do any of you guys have one of those big things in your kitchen that holds porcelain? Or seen one?
We might call it a China cabinet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you like that little connection? Yeah, we call it the China cabinet because it's where we put our porcelain. And most porcelain is coming from China. And also here we notice Persia and their contribution. And then we have amber from the Baltic region, which was a mineral used for different types of jewelry and things like that. This is amber up here in this left corner. And then we have porcelain over here on the continent of Asia, representing that Chinese and Persian influence. Then we have gold down here in North Africa, because remember the Trans-Saharan is known as the golden salt route. And then sugarcane, which we will talk about in this next slide. So paper from China. Here we see that China traded with the Muslims, who then traded with the Byzantines, who then traded with Western Europe. So going from China, that dark brown spot looking top part of the map right here, it went from here all the way to here, which just at that time, we're not talking about airplanes, we're not talking about cargo ships, or, you know, Amazon drones flying it to your place. So to see that it could go all the way across the country was showing how efficient these routes were in not only passing ideas and goods, but also technologies. And that leads us to the new crops from India, like sugarcane. I can almost assure you everyone in this room has had something with sugar in it today already. If you ate lunch, you ate something with sugar in it, even if it wasn't sweet. Yeah, I mean, I bet you there is sugar in that.
We actually are supposed to put a little, like a touch of sugar in your spaghetti sauce to
Yep.
counter the acidity of the tomato sauce.
Yes, sir.
Just
And then there's salt, who, like, we're talking about how big sugar and salt are. Salt, you can't really imagine your life without salt either. We all eat it so often. But this next part about water wheels and windmills, I would put like some stars by it or something, because the SOL often asks about where water wheels and windmills originated, or where on this map would they have first been seen. And to that, you'll want to answer the Middle East. Then we have navigation items like the compass from China and the lantine sail from the Indian Ocean region. And imagining the Indian Ocean region, these sails are probably heavily used on which M route? That is also a word for water.
magma. Marsupial. Michigan.
Maritime.
Oh,
Yeah, you got it.
not bad. Wrong word.
Yes, thank you. Maritime. So you'd probably see a lot of lantine sails there. But this is a picture of one here. And if you look towards, I don't know, I guess like the middle of the sail, you'll see these like thicker ropes that lead down to the bottom. Since there's two sails, they were able to turn like one sail this way and another sail this way. It helped control the actual natural resources like wind. You could kind of direct where you wanted to go. And this is the last slide. We'll be talking about the spread of religions and ideas. So starting with Buddhism, we'll talk about this a little bit more in our next lecture. But this spread from China to Korea and then to Japan. So a lot of the Japanese culture and traditions come from China. And then Hinduism is the Hinduism, which we see in India and Southeast Asia more so. That had a lot to do with reincarnation, so the idea of rebirth after you die. And then Islam, we talked about more recently in the Middle East, but we'll talk about more with West Africa and Mansa Musa in the next little reading or next little video. And then Central and Southeast Asia. And then from China, we talked about how they have paper now. So printing money became a thing. So instead of me looking at Seth and being like, you got to give me your phone and then I'll give you an A. It's an exchange. Instead, Seth could be like, I'm going to pay you off. And I might be like, okay. So you get to keep your goods, but there's a new system of finance and economics running through society. Rather than I have to give up something to get something, I can just pay you instead and still keep what I already have. So that's it for this slide. Make sure that you get in the fill in the blank notes. There's no reason that you all shouldn't have it done already. And then make sure that you turn in the exit ticket. You're gonna have to make a copy of it yourself. And then the arrow at the bottom, or the check mark at the bottom, where you can put how you feel about the material, is draggable. So make sure that you turn in both of those things to receive full credit. All right, virtual folks, until next time, signing off.